All right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball. Usually, this is the point where I say myself and Shane are back here once again, but it's just me this week. Shane is at a wedding, so we got a couple of guys to fill in, as you will see in this episode. A bit of an extended NFL and NBA chat because we had Conan on for the NFL. You guys will know him, he's been on before. Absolute pleasure, and absolute pleasure to also have Michael on as well. We went into detail on a few things there with him about the NBA. We continued the previews, so hope you enjoy having both of those guys on. What else I kind of touched on? Well, to look at the NFL, we kind of chatted about the early MVP conversation and we gave some names there and who we are looking at. So give a listen to that if you fancy picking an underdog there or somebody who's kind of in the conversation and has a nice price, or if you just want to hear who we think has kind of taken the lead early on in the season. And then we also touched on the Colts. Are they for real? Based on how well they've started the season, they're 4-1. Let's see. Let's see what we myself and Conan think. And then myself and Michael did preview the Spurs, the Suns, and the Grizzlies, and we gave our usual answers to the questions about what's going to happen in their season ahead, how far can they go, and we'll obviously go further into that when we do our full NBA season preview, which Michael will also be a part of. We're looking forward to that a lot. I gave both myself and Shane's Gan Seans picks and both myself and Shane's power rankings. Obviously, he sent them across to me, so I gave them both through. There's just one thing I wanted to touch on before we jump into the episode because we have been doing performance of the weekend basically every weekend for the last 3 or 4 weeks about the Premier League team that kind of stood out to us and performed well. So even though I am here on my own, I want to run on that again and continue on and give another one just to keep the ball rolling on this because I enjoyed the segment and I really do think that Newcastle's performance last weekend does deserve a shout. And before we forget about it going into next week, because we're in the international break now, next week we're going to touch on the three promoted teams and how they're getting on so far. Probably with a bit of Ireland chat, hopefully not too negative, because obviously they've got a couple of games coming up over the weekend. So, yeah, back to Newcastle. Against Forest, I thought they were really impressive. It was a good way to back up their win versus USG in the Champions League. I think it was a really tough loss they had laid on against Arsenal the weekend before. And kind of how you bounce back from games like that can tell a lot about how your season is going to go. I know they're not exactly high flying in the table yet, but there's a couple of things that probably needed ironing out. Their away performances, as we kind of mentioned, and when we talked about negative tactics, the way they had the team set up for their away game, for example, against Bournemouth, was quite a negative thing. And I think from there going and losing in the fashion that they did to Arsenal, I think bouncing back with a really convincing win in the Champions League and then basically annihilating Forest really is a positive thing for them going into the rest of the season. They won 2-0. They deserved at the very least to win by 2 goals. That they had so many chances created in that second half. And looking at the XG, they had 3.45 compared to Forest's 0.3. How badly Ange's been doing so far at Forest is it's not a surprise to me because most of you, if you listen to this, will know that I think he's out of his depth, to be honest. And I know it's going to take a while to bed in his ideas, but I think Forest, this is something that you probably may expect to see going forward with Forest struggling with his tactics because the team just isn't set up to play that way as well as everything else. But Newcastle were very, very good. They basically just put them to the sword in this game. 18 shots in total, 9 on target, and 5 big chances missed. I know Voltamata, he needed that penalty. He missed 2 big chances before that. I couldn't believe one of them. It was easier to score than to do what he did, and just completely missed a gilt edged chance. But I think that penalty was an absolute cracker. It was a bit of a the way he took it looked a bit odd. The way he ran up to it. Like I was watching the game with my dad, who's a big Newcastle fan, and I said to him like the way he ran up to the ball and whatever way he had him set up, and his planted foot was so close to the ball, it looked like he could have kicked the ball off his planted foot, to be honest. But it worked for him clearly because he absolutely nailed it into the top corner. So that's good for his confidence too to score despite missing some big chances. And I think they were really really good value for the win. I think they deserve a lot of credit for how they bounced back to that Arsenal loss, as I already mentioned. But it'll be interesting to see now how they go from here. they'll obviously be hoping to reach those Champions League places once again, but getting a win in the Champions League against a weaker opponent will help them kick on there as well. And obviously, they'll be hoping to get out of that initial league phase there. So let's keep an eye on them this season. A bit of a bumpy start, but I think they were impressive last weekend, and that could kick them on now after the international window, which may have come at a bad time for them because you like to get that momentum going, but obviously they'll take a dominant win like that any day of the week. So let's get into the rest of the episode. We're jumping into our chat with Conan first. So enjoy everything that's ahead. All right, lads, let's get into the first section. We've got Conan back once again. Pleasure for you coming on, especially at late notice and at this late hour. I know you're tied up until late, so I really appreciate you coming on because, yeah, well, it's nearly 10 o'clock now. Usually we like to get these things done earlier, and you've taken time out to spend it with us, so we really appreciate it.
Anytime. No, listen, it's me that's meant to be thanking you. Thank you very much again for having me on. I love talking ball, love talking to you, James. So it's a great mix. I get to do both. And what sleep is overrated anyway. Who needs it? So no, this is this is what I needed. I needed this.
You needed to relieve some stress and talk some ball.
Yes.
But obviously, we don't have Shane this time, so we're not going to hear some random Jets nonsense during this chat. So let's let's just go from the start here because we're going with MVP, early MVP conversation. So Shane, this is the point where Shane would have said Justin Fields. So let's just get that bit gone, and let's hear who you've got. We were going to go through like three picks each. One of them is going to be kind of an underdog. And so, who is your first pick for this early MVP chat?
Okay. So, oh my god. Okay, I'll be real with you. I found it very hard to stick with three.
Mm,
And because right, I'll okay, talk through my thinking. Okay, so I've about six. The underdogs are very much like underdogs. Like there is not a real like solid pick for MVP.
okay.
Three of them are quarterbacks, and that's boring. Maybe don't want to see that. I'll start off okay because this guy has been solid, and I've been a big fan of him throughout all the teams he's been through, all the teams he's been with, and all the hardships he's gone through. I'm a massive Baker Mayfield fan, and I have Baker Mayfield as one of the clear frontrunners for MVP. I love the kid. Okay, I'll throw some stats at your face now. So, 1,283 passing yards already. He has a 65.1 completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, and this I didn't know. One interception. Did
Yeah.
not know that. And obviously a 4-1 record. And that one loss, it could have gone either way against the Eagles. So, like, we could be sat here talking about Baker Mayfield and the Bucks being 5-0, and that would be crazy. Yeah, he's just playing out of his skin. And what I find weird, I mean, in the past, what would I even say? Maybe even longer than 5 years. Like I've been used to the Bucks having a solid defense, like never like below par defense. But recently, like whilst doing this research, I was going through like obviously the Bucks results and Baker's performance, whatever, and like every game has been decided by six or fewer points. Like it's constantly been close, and even with all these stats that Baker's got out, and he's got Egbuka, who's been like superb for him. And I was massive fan of him, like coming out of college anyway. But even with all this, the firepower that they have, the defense just can't. They're not helping them out, and that is so like random. Not random, but it's like so foreign to me seeing a Bucks defense not playing well. Which is
Yeah.
so that's my first pick for MVP there, Baker Mayfield. Love the kid.
Yeah, one of the well, I've already like built out the graphic for this, and I had Baker on it because I knew that he was going to be a hot topic on this because I have him too, as one of my first picks here. I think first of all, the stats that you listed out are like amazing, but his performance has gone beyond that as well. Just the way he's like willed the team basically to
Mm.
win all of these close games. So 23-20 against the Falcons. They had no right to win that game. The Falcons were the better team, and he still pulled it out, which is massive in division against probably your biggest threat. And then Texans winning by a point. They ground that one out against a tough Texans defense, beating the Jets by 2. Again, the Jets probably should have won that game. They threw it
Yeah,
away.
that was a crazy game. Yeah,
Sorry, Shane. And then the Eagles game, yeah, you actually thought they probably should have won the Eagles game, and they end up losing by 6 late on. And then
yeah.
last week, that game against the Seahawks, I thought Darnold was going to drive them down, and actually that was one of the only times the Bucks defense really stepped up and made a play. Although they did concede 35 points in that game, but like he's been something else. 104.4 QBR, and the only thing I think that maybe the conversation doesn't go too much further with him past the next few weeks is their schedule is so tough. Like I feel like they had such a tough schedule already, but just looking at their next few weeks, like I think this Sunday against the Niners, they're the favorites, but I just feel like that's a bogey game there
Yeah,
where
no,
the
totally agree.
Niners are kind of dangerous and their defense is going to be pretty good. Then they play the Lions. That speaks for itself. Then obviously they play some team called the Saints. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're apparently I think they're like an
Okay,
expansion
okay,
team or something like that.
okay. No, I'm not. I'm not having this. No, no. Maybe Shane's taking this. I'm not taking this. No, I'm not having this. Listen,
No,
for
but
good
it
this. Hey, no, no, no. Listen, it's your Giants that lost to us. Okay, to this expansion team. You know, yeah. Hey, I'm not having this at all. No, I'm not having this. No,
Uh,
expansion team.
anyway, that it. What I was gonna say really about that one is that in division games are always weird. So you wouldn't be surprised if they just randomly lose, even if they are the favorite. And then Patriots, I don't really like the Patriots this year, so I think that's okay. Bills, tough, so tough. Rams, so tough. So like you're looking at a really tough schedule here. So I
Mm,
think the conversation for him, his price is 17-2, but I feel like I wouldn't really be looking at that as something I would back
no,
because I don't think it goes much further than maybe another couple of big performances. But then, regardless of how well he plays, it does go on record as well. And I don't think these close games are kind of sustainable as a way
no.
to have a good record. Like you can't keep winning that late. And also the point on throwing picks, like he had one pick, but he should have had like 8 by now. Some of the passes he has thrown, like especially early on in the season, like the Texans, they dropped like I think it was either the Texans or the Jets dropped like 3 like really bad passes that I don't know what he was
Mhm.
doing. But then obviously those things are forgotten about when they don't happen. So yeah, I really love him as well. I think he's great, and what a lineup of quarterbacks the Bucks have had like over the last few
Um,
years between him,
um,
Brady, Fitzpatrick, and Jameis. Just so random and so like brilliant in different ways.
No, it's been nuts. No, don't get me started. As an obvious Saints fan, it's been a weird like the past 10 years watching the Bucks and like obviously the Tom Brady signing being like
Mm,
what has just happened. No, no, I totally agree. With you. No, like, well, yeah, like I said, it's not only these close games. You can't keep. I know, the Chiefs were somewhat similar last year, where they kept like winning these one score games, and people were like, oh my god, they've got devil magic or whatever.
yeah,
But I think in that instance, they had this. I'm going back to defense constantly. They
yeah,
had this great defense.
yeah,
Whereas, and Steve Spagnuolo, running
yeah,
it,
exactly.
but it's not. That's not going to happen with the Bucks. I mean, unless this is getting clipped after they go 17-2. But no, there's. I can't see it happening. And I mean, like you said, you know, Baker is quite you know rash, or he does just loves to throw a ball up. He just slings it. There's not much.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, not much thinking behind some of them. It's just like I'm going to shoot this as fast as I can. I someone better catch it, whoever it
yeah,
is. So yeah, no, you're totally right there.
yeah. I think the point on Spag's defense as well. That's the first thing that came to mind when you think about like how the Chiefs ground out those wins. it's often harder to do it by scoring like 40 points every week, as we saw
Yeah,
with
exactly.
how the Bengals capitulated last year. Like you can't really keep up with a bad defense. So I'll give my next pick then. I've gone with one I actually really like, and I think it could be a chance at this one. I didn't want to pick like I didn't go I know obviously the obvious answers are Josh Allen here or Mahomes like turns it on late or whatever. These are the bookies' favorites, but the ones I went with are the ones I found most interesting. Baker was first, second was Matt Stafford. So he is 12 to
Hey,
1.
hey.
I think those odds are unbelievable. He's had over 1,500 yards, 67% completion, pretty much, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a higher QBR than Baker, 107.3. Now, the Rams are 3-2. I feel like they're one of those teams that there's a couple of games there they lost this season in the Eagles game and also the Niners game. Both of them are ones that, well, firstly, the Eagles game was just freaky that those two blocked field goals in the fourth when they
Yeah,
had
that
dominated.
was a crazy game.
And then the Niners game last week, it's one of those weird divisional games where the Niners are completely beat up. Mac Jones is quarterbacking them, and they just managed to turn the Rams over late on because, and also that was a McVay decision late on to run that fourth down to try and
Yeah.
take the game, and it was a really bad play call, to be honest. Like Williams
Mhm.
wasn't really breaking free much in that game, and yeah, the Niners read them like a book there. So I think they'll learn a lot from those two games, and going forward, I think they'll be a team that are pushing. I picked them at the start of the year to go to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna stick by that. I think they'll get there, and Stafford is gonna lead them. Those some of those throws that he made, that like honest to God, like some of those, like the throw that he made to I know against the Rams or against the Colts when he put Atwell in for the long touchdown, there was like a DB I think that fell over, but
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
away he saw him. He's like one of those things that he never misses anything. If something comes
No.
open, he hits them, and that's it. And he might be a quarterback that leads probably the best three receiving seasons ever with Calvin Johnson at the Lions. Then he had Cup at the Rams, and now Puka is on for a 2,000 yard pace.
Yeah,
Like
that's
just
crazy.
absolutely unbelievable. So I was tempted to put Puka as my underdog pick just because of how he may get over 2,000 yards and how well he's
Mhm.
playing. But I know it's a quarterback award pretty much. So I think Stafford would be my actual pick right now if I had to go behind anyone and go with them.
No, I we're on the same wavelength here, okay? I had him here as well. I obviously fantasy. I'm going off on a tangent here. Fantasy, pick them up, think right at the start of the season, think, oh yeah, it's just someone safe to have.
Nice
All of a
backup.
sudden, oh my god, what's going on? And I think what's crazy to me is start of the year, I was the same with you. I was thinking, yeah, Rams are going to go. The Rams dark horse going to make a Super Bowl. I can see that happening. But I was more I was more thinking of, oh, because they have this young defense, they have this great young defense, great core. The defensive line's great. This, that, the other. This defense hasn't been that great so far in the season.
No,
And that's something I didn't think I'd be saying at this point. They have not been that good. Now, they do tend to do this throughout like every season. They tend to start off slow and then by the end they pick it up. But I was expecting the entire team to kind of gel quicker, like get it together quicker. Like
yeah,
Kyron Williams, off the top of my head, I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's been like outstanding, or he hasn't been
no.
had that much of an influence
They've
in
used
the
him
run
more as a
game.
receiving back this season as well to get him going because of how much he's kind of struggled.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
rookie, so
And I think it's literally just been the Matthew Stafford and Puka Nakua show.
yeah,
Like I mean that I had Puka Nakua as one of these like the underdogs for
yeah,
MVP as well, but like the pair of them are just it's just them against the world, and until I think is somewhat similar. maybe obviously Stafford and his experience on his side maybe won't be similar to what we were saying about Baker, and that
Mm,
can't keep just hoping that the defense will somehow click by the end. Like something's got to change now. I mean, I don't know what it is. I'll be honest, I haven't been watching Rams games like under magnifying glass. Like I don't know exactly what's going on, but
yeah,
like Jared Verse hasn't been this hasn't had the same input or output as we're used to seeing. Like I don't know
mhm.
what's going on. Like I haven't heard much about Braden Fisk either. Like I don't know how productive he is either.
He
And
had a
they were
pretty
that
decent game, I think, against the Niners, but yeah, slow start again, like which is
I know.
unexpected.
So I think this is because I have another quarterback and his defense also sucks, and it's
Mm,
just weird how like these QBs putting out doing all this work, and it might be for now. It's a bit like Joe
yeah,
Burrow last year, where he was genuine MVP candidate. I didn't even get to the playoffs,
yeah.
and I don't
It's
know. It's such a weird year. It's so competitive this year.
There's
It's
so
so
many teams
nuts.
as well that are seem like they might be overperforming. Like even the Bucks are, the Jags certainly are. The Colts are
Oh
a team
yeah.
we're going to come on to in a while, but I think the Rams are the opposite end. But I think that looking at the games coming up, like the Ravens this weekend without Lamar and with
Mm.
basically no defense, like if you're going to concede 40 odd points to the Texans, the Rams could put 100 on you. Like
Yeah.
honestly, they
Yeah.
will wax them this weekend, I think, and then they'll humble the Jags the week after. I feel like in you'll be at that game. I feel so
I will
that'll
be
be
at
an
that game.
interesting one in London. I do
Yeah.
think that they will bring them back down to earth, and then they play after that. This team I think called the Saints. I'm not sure.
Oh my god, he's done it again. He's done it again. He's done it again. Oh my god,
No, but
man.
then after the Saints, like those three games, I think they're all winnable, and then it is a little bit more tough because they've got the Niners again. But I feel like a quick turnaround after that tough loss, you want to put it right. Then
Yeah.
they have the Seahawks and Bucks. So I think this is the path of they face like easy Ravens defense. Okay, he'll put up some stats on the Jags, Saints, and Niners. I feel like he knows how to play against the Niners. He's done it so many times. Then he faces the Seahawks. That would be a real test. That defense is
Mm,
something else.
that'll be
But
so good.
I think he could be on for I don't know how many yards this season. The fact he has over 1,500 doesn't make sense. Like, and the whole talk before the season was how he's injured. He was in this pod basically to preserve him, bring him back to life. I don't know what was going on in that pod, but he's like coming out of that thing like as if it was like I don't know what some kind of Star Trek pod. And now all that's forgotten. Nobody's talking about it anymore. Everyone's like, "Oh
I
yeah,"
know.
like, What about that? What about? I thought he was barely able to move. He's thrown for like he's thrown for fun, and Devonte Adams is like his secondary receiver, and he's happy to do so. For some
Yeah,
reason,
that's nuts to me.
he's
That
he's
is
after
nuts to
turning
me.
Adams around too,
I
in his
was so
attitude and his ability to accept that he's a second fiddle.
I was so expecting. Like, obviously, all the wide receivers get the tagline that they are divas, and especially like not saying Devontae Adams is a diva, but to go from the main receiver for Aaron Rodgers for so many years, be that main guy. I mean, doing it. I know. I guess the Raiders. Yeah. I mean, that was a bad time in his life. But then he went to the Jets again, number one there, even though Gary Wilson was there as well, he was still like it was still him and Rogers like this. So it baffles me really how like sound he is with what? Yeah, fine, I'll take a backseat to this.
Yeah, doesn't
Like
seem like
what?
him. Yeah.
No, it's crazy. So I mean, maybe that's what they need.
Mhm.
They need the team to kind of play as a group. Because that would be like we were mentioning before anyway. Like it can't keep going on if they're putting up all these points, the defense isn't helping them out. So if Devontae Adams at any point started going like, oh, I'm actually sick of this, I'm not getting all these targets, that would I feel like the wheels would fall off, and at
That's
that
the
point
only
it'll be
thing
like,
that
okay,
may cause some kind of upset, I feel like. That's the most
yeah,
likely thing.
yeah, because like having 2-2 as your second is not, it does not look good.
Yeah, that's true. But even some of like Adams' performances, he's had less targets, but already this season he's had 3 touchdowns and like there's a couple of games there, 88 yards last week, 106 against the Titans. So he is getting fed. I think
Mm,
it's just not as much targets as he probably would want, but it feels like he's okay with it so far. So I think the hope for them is that it can continue that way and then
mm,
just use Tutu as like a deep threat. And the fact that Williams seems to need kind of some help by getting going in the
yeah.
receiving game is only going to push up Matt Stafford's stats. So yeah, I think we're both kind of in tandem on those two. So let's get your underdog pick then. Who have you gone with as an outsider?
Ah, okay. Can I go? Okay, no, I have to mention this guy. Can I go honorable mention afterwards or before? Because I
Go
want to
after
mention
because
one
we'll see
guy.
what my one is. See what my one is, and then
Okay,
if he
fine. Okay, yeah, fine. I know we're gonna be talking about this team anyway in a bit, but I have to mention Jonathan Taylor,
yeah, yeah.
and especially after last Sunday as well. Like I kept every time I watching Red Zone, I go, oh, the Colts scored. It was Jonathan Taylor. Sick. Okay. I'd go on my phone. I didn't have him on this team. I had him on this one. Damn it. Oh, well, it'll probably stop now. Oh, he scored again. It was just constant. The guy is, I mean, we've known since he got to the league in 2020, we've known that this guy's legit. He's
Mhm.
constantly been in that high echelon, like top top five, top seven back in the league every year. And he's constantly, I keep on forgetting how quick the guy is. He's almost every time in the top three, like highest clock speed in the year. The guy's nuts. I have his stats here as well. 480 rushing yards already, 5.1 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns, 0 fumbles, and four and one record. And the Colts could easily be. I mean, I don't want to talk about the Colts too much because we'll lose it at the end. But they could easily be 5-0 if it
Yeah,
wasn't. I'm being mean and blaming Adonai Mitchell, but I'm doing it. I don't care.
it
Like
was
he
his fault, really.
he messed up big time. Same with Demarcado with Cardinals. Like
Yeah,
you cannot do mistakes like that on the biggest scale in the most competitive league in the sport. Like
it's
it's
just
not happening.
unacceptable.
Yeah, but
And
yeah,
he made
that's
2 mistakes in that game as well, not only just the one.
yes,
So
exactly. Yeah, so that's mine, Jonathan Taylor, and it'd be nice to see a running back win it because Saquon lost that. I mean, Saquon lost out last year, and he had like a historic year.
start, yeah,
So it's not looking likely that Jonathan Taylor could get it, but I want to just mention his name because he has just been such an important part of this team. It's not like it's just purely been him, but when they've called upon him, he's delivered. Like
yeah,
he's never not. I don't think at any point in any games he's not delivered or he's been, he's underperformed. Like Daniel Jones he's been surgical. He hasn't been throwing the ball deep. He just completion percentage has been high, surgical, gets them to a certain point that they need to get to, and then Jonathan Taylor gets the job done later on. Like
yeah.
it's such a well-oiled machine at the moment. Sorry, I'll talk about the Colts later on. Sorry, but yeah, Jonathan
Yeah,
Taylor. Sorry.
I think we'll touch on the rest of the Colts team afterwards, but on Taylor, I have like obviously a bit done on him. He wasn't my pick for outside, but I just did a little bit on him because we're obviously getting into the Colts in a small bit. But like looking at as well his receiving game, like he can do it, but it's not his game. But he still has another
Mm,
133 yards and a touchdown. So that brings him to 613 total. He's only behind Puka, who, as we mentioned, is on for a record setting season, and CMC, who is the whole Niners offense right now. They're going to him in the passing game and the run game. So
mm,
he's very impressive for a back who's not primarily or over reliant on pass catching, and he's also leading the league in touchdowns with 7. So yeah,
mm.
he's a great honorable mention or a great underdog pick, should I say? I feel like the reason I didn't want you to give your honorable mention is because I feel like that's my underdog pick.
Okay, okay.
So my underdog pick is Dak Prescott. Uh,
Okay.
I've gone with
Okay.
him 22-1. So far this season, 1,356 yards, 71% completion percentage.
Yeah,
Considering
that's
he's been
crazy.
throwing the ball like deep a lot as well, and some of his deep passes are disgustingly good. Um, a 10-3 TD to interception ratio, 101 QBR. You're looking at a Cowboys team that are just they're just last year's Bengals. Um,
Yeah.
2-2 and
Yeah.
1 this season. First game of the season, play quite well against the Eagles, and I thought that's a good sign already. Then they beat the Giants in that overtime game, which was heart wrenching for the Giants. But yeah, ultimately that helped get Russell Wilson benched, so we'll take it. Got hammered by the Bears, which was a surprise. And then
Yeah,
that
that was
40
nuts.
40, 40 against the Packers. What a game that was. And they really put it up against a Packers team that everyone was raving about up to that point. And then they put it up to them with the same level of offense. Yeah, and that was without CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And then the Jets game, they just showed them. Sorry, Shane. They showed them
I was
how
just
to
about to
play football.
say.
So, but then looking at their upcoming schedule, like they have the Panthers, Commanders in division game. Broncos is going to be tough. Cardinals, who will just shoot themselves in
Uh,
the foot on
yeah,
any
I don't
given
even know about
chance.
them. Yeah.
Raiders, there's a few games there that are winnable. I think they could easily wind up as a team that gets to the cusp of a wild card spot, and
Mm.
by the time they get into the Eagles and Chiefs games, which is in 5 games time, that could be close to 3,000 yards already because
Yeah.
just the way that they're playing. I really think he's somebody that deserves to be in the MVP conversation. He's looked absolutely amazing this season.
No, 100%. Like my friends hate me for liking the Cowboys, especially Dak. Like I'm not a fan of the Cowboys, but I do like him. Contrary to popular belief, I like him. I know everyone else
Yeah,
hates them, but I do
yeah,
like him. Dak even more so. I really like Dak, and I hate he gets hate purely because he is the Cowboys
yeah.
quarterback. And I just remember I'm trying to remember how many was it. Maybe 3, 4 years ago. Was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago when Dak was again
It
another
was, yeah,
MVP
it's three, I
favorite?
think, years ago he was up there. He was
Like,
going to be
like
a
he's
favorite.
people could keep forgetting he is that guy. Like he can't he has it in his
Yeah.
arsenal. He can do it,
There's a
and
reason he got paid as much as he did as well. Like, I know that's another reason why people hate on him. But
yeah,
if you had him with a very then the argument is, can you have him with a really good defense because he's paid so much? But
yeah,
look, if they were wiser, they could. But yeah, I think
100%.
he's so good. And actually, my uncle like is always saying how he just does not like him at all. He's like, no, no, and I'm just like, oh, no, he is solid. He is a very good quarterback.
No, he's I like what would saying he's putting up all these numbers. Like you said, he's been without CD for is it 2 games now? 2 or 3 games? 2 games?
Yeah, 2.5. Well, actually, the first game that he was ruled out of, he only like ran one route and he didn't catch the ball, so it was basically 3 games at
So
this point.
essentially three, and like George Pickens has stepped up a little bit. I
Yeah,
mean,
Jalen
Javante
Tolbert,
Williams, Jalen Tolbert's been good. Cavonte Turpin, obviously he can do it all.
mhm,
Javante Williams has
super.
been like a shock for me. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember his first year with the Broncos. I knew he's got something about him, and then it just kind of went downhill for him.
yeah,
This is like this resurgence. I mean, I think this is another reason why this Cowboys team is kind of still in the fight for half of them. Like
mm,
that Giants game where there was a third and extremely long, like
mm,
a third and 26 in I think it was either in overtime, just before overtime, and they went with a run play, and Javonte Williams could have been stopped behind the line of scrimmage, didn't,
mm.
and made up all the yards. And I was like, this guy is he's a completely different person.
Third,
But yeah,
just before you go on there, 3rd and 26 against the Giants is essentially like 2nd and 2. So yeah, what if you look,
okay.
get a compilation of all Giants 3rd and 15 plus this season, and it's just a clinic in how to call plays the most stupid way you possibly can. Even okay,
Oh
but I'm not
god.
going to go off on a tangent, but how they set up the Cowboys for that Aubrey field goal at the end. They know he can kick it from that deep, and they literally had
I
like,
know.
why
No, I
is
know.
Paul? Why did you even sign Paulson Adebo if you're going to be like, okay, you're a great man-to-man defender. Like you're good. You're good when you're playing man, but you want to be touch tight to the player. Okay, what you're going to do is he's going to be there. You stand, let's say, 26 yards off him, and then we'll start it from there. Like Shane Bowen needs to be fired into the sun. But
and we also want you as soon as the ball's out, don't meet him, backpedal. You
yeah,
gotta cover.
backpedal
You gotta
instantly.
cover the. You gotta cover the deep.
We're
Oh my
running
god!
cardio out here. We're not actually playing coverage.
But no, that I mean, yeah, no, Dak is an excellent shout. He's one.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm just, I'm not. I don't know what the word is. I can't. I'm indecisive. I have too many picks, but
Yeah,
Dak was up there. Like he was
yeah.
my second one after Baker, but no,
Who
Dak
was
has been
your
superb.
honorable mention?
Wow,
There we
wow.
go.
So basically, so whilst I
Spencer
was
Rattler.
what? Almost now. Whilst I was looking into Puka's stats, I
Hmm.
noticed this guy, and I haven't been paying much attention to him or his team playing because I didn't think first game of the season I thought the team were going to be more rush heavy, but no, this guy's been nuts. So I have Jackson Smith and Jigba
Oh my
because
god, he
I
is
mean,
unbelievable.
I've never been like super high on him until now. Like I realized, okay, I do not know ball. I so just to put it into perspective here, okay. So he's 34 receptions on 43 targets.
Mhm.
He's on 534 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He's getting almost 15, more than 15 and a half yards per reception, right? So Jackson Smith and Jigba only has 52 less yards than Puka Nakua with
Yeah.
18 less receptions than him.
Mhm.
I did not know he was doing this.
And a lot of his passes as well are like only maybe 5 or 7 yards beyond the line of scrimmage because he is playing with Sam Darnold and
Yeah.
it's not really deep. Like they're dialing up, and every time he has the ball, yards after the catch must be insane. I don't have the stat, but
No,
he
I
is
don't either. I should have got that
unbelievably
one.
good. And
He's
I just tweeted about him like if you me and Shane do like a rotating like topic of the day on Twitter, and I had him as like after last weekend. I was like I wanted to do him the week before, and I was like let's wait till he has the. And then they lost then to the Bucks. I was like, should I? Shouldn't I? I was like, no, I have to put it out now. Just watching
yeah.
him is he's so good.
He's crazy. And I think what this year with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson having, a slower start to the year, nothing on them. Like nothing on them at all. It's just this, situation they've been put in. Like there's still top receivers in the game, but when Joe Burrow goes down injured, and the same with JJ McCarthy, and you're rotating QBs,
Hmm.
it's never going to work. But that's how we're seeing like Jackson Smith and Puka really standing out. I didn't realize Chris Olave is also in like top 5 receptions in
Really.
the year as well, and I had no idea that was going on. Like with the so all these receivers, all these like mid-range receivers, is
Mm,
suddenly their usage is going up
yeah.
because of these top end receivers not playing at the top of the game.
That's
But
why it
no,
was so sad when Neighbors went down as well because he could
yeah,
legitimately have been the number one receiver in the league this season, and he
yeah,
was on like a really good pace, and then yeah, just heartbreaking stuff. But
I know that was it.
I think Smith and Jigba looks, and I looked. It was really good seeing him and Egbuka kind of basically like tail off on each other during that game, just like
Yeah,
one after the other, one after the other, and two both Ohio State, I believe. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was really something special and good for both of them. And he's so young as well, considering what he's going into like his third year, and he's like 22 or something like that.
That's
20,
crazy.
yeah, he's young. So
That's
yeah, I like
crazy.
that pick. So those are our shouts for MVP and underdog. Obviously, we already touched on the rushing aspect of the Colts game, which is something they rely on heavily. But another question I posed to you before this is, are the Colts for real? So I think that luck in football kind of comes back around, and that's the reason why they lost to the Rams, because in that Rams game they deserved to win. They actually deserved to win it. They were very, very good. And that showed me that they are for real. Because this Rams
Mm,
team is exceptional. The week before against the Broncos, they were really lucky to get the win. So I think that luck kind of comes in ebbs and flows. So I think 4-1 is perfectly accurate for their level. And yeah, that Rams game was a real marker of that they are actually for real. For me anyways.
mm. Well, I mean, I agree. I agree. I think they are. I mean, I think they're definitely for real. I think whilst I was doing my research on the Colts, I looked at the team stats all in all. So not, I wasn't looking at like how many interceptions, how many tackles for loss, whatever. So as an offense, they have the fourth most passing yards in the NFL, and that is,
Mm,
Daniel Jones isn't a gunslinger, so that is quite a stat that they are. That is like I said before, well-oiled machine. It is just constant. The eighth most rushing yards
yeah.
in the NFL, still again top 10. Second most points per game,
Well,
because yeah, I don't know that. So that's second to only the Lions, I think, which is crazy. Also, third least amount of points conceded in the
that's the most
NFL.
important part.
So this defense is. I mean, I always knew the Colts were just that little bit away from making it. Like the defense has always been
Yeah.
legit. Jonathan Taylor's always been legit. I I mean, okay, Michael Pittman, I've never been that high on. Josh Downs,
Mm,
I love. I love Josh Downs so much, and I think he benefited from Anthony Richardson because of the moon balls, and Josh Downs just
hmm
went. I mean, it's not Daniel Jones's game, so that's why he's not as productive. But I love Josh Downs.
He's
Alec
even
Pierce
getting some.
is
He
really
like
good.
Alec Pierce's game is kind of going deep, but Jones is connecting with him nicely as well. So that's yeah,
I know. Like he's been somewhat consistent, like not really good and consistently really good, but he's been solid. Like what you need that solid
yeah,
foundation anyway. Like he's never faltered. Warren,
so good.
like superb, so good, superb. He's been really good. The offensive line,
Yeah, they've
pretty
always
good.
had a decent
You
line
know,
as well. So
exactly. So the team's always had these key aspects, key elements in them. It's just needed that little bit. And how nuts is it that Daniel Jones, of all people, has been that spark? Like it's not. So that just shows that this team didn't even need like a high round pick or high
mm,
draft pick or like a Josh Allen to take him. They just needed a guy who would just get the
hmm
job done, who just knew, okay, I don't have to be Superman here. If I just do the basics and do them right, do them consistently, then we
yeah,
can do this. Like it's crazy. Was there anything else here? Okay, this one's good. Fifth highest turnover differential in the
mm,
NFL with +5. Okay, so they've only given the ball away 3 times this year. That is also like a stat you don't. It's like an
yeah,
invisible stat, or you don't look at the giveaways much. But this team is just clinical.
clean
They
football.
are to the book, clean, and that's how you win games. That's how the Chiefs won all those games last year, where everyone was like voodoo magic. I hate it, hate this, but it's because they were
hmm
clean. Their special teams was doing the dirty work as well. Like this Colts team, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and it is really good. I love seeing it. I love seeing like just football done right on all
Yeah,
aspects. It was
I
really
always
good.
liked as well Daniel Jones at the Giants. I always thought that I wished he did succeed, but every time Andrew Thomas was getting injured, that was leading to his demise, I think, massively.
Yeah,
And that's a big thing because he's not he if he's comfortable he makes decisions quickly, but on his in his essence, if he's uncomfortable, he's a very slow decision maker. And I think now that he has the time behind that line, and he has almost like if there's ever an issue, just dump it off to Warren or dump it off to or to Jonathan Taylor, and you're okay. He knows that those two options are there. A lot of the time, the Giants he didn't have the time, first of all, and second of all, he didn't have those options because when Saquon was there with him, he was constantly getting injured. If Jones wasn't injured himself, Andrew Thomas was injured, and this is just a cleaner team that know how to play clean football, as you've mentioned. I think Shane Steichen is a very, very good coach. He can clearly coach up a quarterback who's even competent. Like, there's a lot of talk right now about, is Jalen Hurts like that good, or is he just like average level? Does he need to have a good coordinator? And look, he had Kellen Moore, who was excellent. Then he had Steichen before that. So what Steichen has done with Jones is he's allowed him to get the ball out quickly, which is what he did with Hurts. Now he doesn't have the same rushing ability, but you have Taylor there, as we already talked about. So I think the way he's coached this team, and they almost seeing Lou Anarumo come as kind of an additional piece, is something that maybe unlocked the defense, because like he coached up probably a mid level defense with the Bengals up to a team that reached the Super Bowl, and their defense was good that year. There was times that they were caught out, but nothing compared to how they were last season. And I know he was still the coach last season, but what he can do when given the resources is very good. Like, their rush defense is amazing, and that's so important. Games are won and lost in the trenches. Only 98 yards per game allowed. So yeah, with the schedule they have right now, is like it's hard to see where they stop.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're entirely right. You know, Cardinals next. Like, that's the Chargers.
They're banged up on offensive line.
The Chargers are a weird one. Yeah, the Chargers are a weird one. Titans after that. I have Steelers, and that's at Pittsburgh. That,
I don't know.
I mean,
the Steelers have.
That might be.
I don't know. They haven't been great.
I'm just thinking about the. I think that's where Daniel Jones will get the pressured the most.
Yeah.
If out of all these games that's going to come up, that's where he's going to get pressured most. I think that's going to be his not make or break, but that's going to be okay. There you go. The test. How can you deal under pressure with TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Highsmith, or what's the other one? There's a German one. I forget. There's a European one who's superb as well. I forget the Steelers plays. I forget off the top of my head. But yeah, that'll be a real test for him. Then the Falcons, then the Chiefs. Like I've listed all these teams, and it's looking good for them, especially in the division they're in. I mean, I know Jacksonville's doing superb, but then it's Houston and Tennessee.
It looks like there's a fall off coming for Jacksonville as well. Whereas with the Colts, it looks like it's more steady. I know Jacksonville, they were much more impressive against the Chiefs, but I thought in their earlier games it was down to a lot of luck. But then you look at the Colts, and I know the Raiders have been poor, but to beat a Pete Carroll-led team 40-6, you have to be good. You have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And for me as well, another big test will be playing the Texans. That's where he'll come under severe pressure. If you have Will Anderson
totally
coming off one side, and gone off the top of my head, one of the best, Danielle Hunter, one of the best edge rushers in the game.
Yeah.
So I think those are definitely big tests for Jones, because as I said, he finds it hard to make decisions when he's under pressure. But if they have enough kind of automizations in his mind already, this is what I do in this situation, this is what I do here, I know I'm okay behind this line, then he might be okay when he comes to those games. But I agree that the Steelers is a big test because of that. And then obviously the Texans as well, who I think probably, if they are on their day, probably the best defense in the league for me, if not the Seahawks. That they're kind of a toss-up for me right now. But
sorry, I'm gonna just. It's not gonna be much importance what I say now, but I have to just say it because it's been on my mind for a while. I've watched the defense for the Colts play a couple of times, and I've seen loads of times where Laiatu Latu has actually been in coverage, or he's in zone coverage, which means that in my head I'm thinking, okay, that means they've got more zone blitzes, more fire blitzes going on, which is, they're going to rush one side. That means Lyoto can drop back in this other one, and that's what he's dropping in the little pocket where the QB's getting rushed one side, so he's gonna look this way straight away. Okay, I'm just gonna dump it off,
and he's like a hawk waiting for that.
I think you are completely right with the defense that they just needed that one addition and just a different mindset. Like, I'm looking at the draft they had as well. Like JT Tuamolau as well was another good pick, but there's no like outstanding defensive players they've added in. Didn't they also didn't Chavez Ward leave as well?
He went. Did he leave since he's got there? Like, I know he just went there this season.
I'm sure he. Oh, did he get that? Have I messed it? Have I messed it up?
I thought he just went there from the Niners.
Okay, my bad. I just remember the name. Anyway, ignore my lack of ball knowledge. But basically, there hasn't been like big movements in defense. It's roughly the same people they had last year. It's just different concept. It's just crazy how a different concept, considering how many things you can do on defense. There's only so many looks you could give, so many fronts and coverages. There's only like a handful of coverages you can actually do. So it's nuts how just a different mindset, different way of looking at it leads them to now being conceding the third best team, conceding least amount of points.
And then also the fact that your
offense
is not constantly giving up bad field position and allowing the other team to come back into it. So that plays into it too, like if you're just clinical on both sides. So I do think they're definitely for real, and I think you'd agree. We both kind of come to that. So I think they're one that I don't think I see a fall off coming this season. So I think they'll make the playoffs.
No,
I think they will at this point. But it's been a pleasure having you on again. As I said earlier at the start, thank you for coming on at this ungodly hour.
No, thank you very much.
And we'll surely have you on again, but I appreciate it, man.
No, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. I love talking ball, love talking to you. So no, this is my pleasure. Like this is great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man. Talk to you again soon.
So Gan Seans continued last week. Shane got the only point of the week. So it was 2-2. We're at 3-2 now. He had the jammiest win of all time with the Titans taking down the Cardinals. If you haven't watched that game, just go back and watch the highlights. It's probably the worst loss I've ever seen by the Cardinals. Like, just unforced errors. The Titans just did not force them into making mistakes. Dropping the ball, running into the end zone. A snap straight off Kyler Murray's face mask that led to a fumble or a recovery by the Titans. Another ball they intercepted, took 3 steps to secure the interception, fell down, dropped the ball. 2 people slapped it off the Cardinals, and it ends up in the end zone where the Titans pick it up and get a touchdown. I honestly couldn't believe it. And I thought the Browns were going to get one for me, but unfortunately not. They surrendered late to the Vikings. So I'll go through my picks first. So what I've gone with here this week is the 49ers to take down the Bucks. They are away from home, and although I do really like the Bucks this season, they've been winning games very late on, and they've been kind of pushing their luck at times. I find that Baker has thrown a lot of passes that could be intercepted, which, like I mentioned earlier when we talked about the MVP conversation. But I do think that the Niners might take advantage and win a very close game here, maybe by 3 points. So they're 27-20, so I went with them as my first pick. I've gone back to the Browns. Probably shouldn't be going back to the Browns, but I just think that divisional games are very strange, especially in the AFC North. It's hard to know. And I just still am not certain on the Steelers. They'll probably come out and win this by 3 or 4 points, just like scraping it by. But I do think that the Browns' defense is very, very good, and Dylan Gabriel will probably be a little bit more settled into the offense. But look, it's a very tough place to go and play in Pittsburgh. So this one, I really wanted to take the Seahawks instead, but the Seahawks were just evens, and then they went. Both teams are actually odds on, so it wasn't exactly something that would have fit in the criteria here. So that was my second pick, and then my third pick was the Saints. They're playing the Patriots. they're at home. I still think the Saints are pretty solid this year, and they're 8-5 to win this game. I think taking them against the spread is probably a smarter thing to do. Similarly to the Browns and similarly to the Niners, I wouldn't mind taking all these three against the spread or with the spread, because I think all these games are going to be close, and I think the Saints might take this one late on because the Patriots can make mistakes, and the Saints defense isn't the worst in the league. They can cause turnovers like they did to the Giants last week. So put the three of them together, and that's 18 and a half to 1. So those are my three picks. And then Shane, first of all, of course, he went with the Jets to beat the Broncos. What he said, the Jets were 11-4. What he said with that is, look, they have to win eventually, and it's a bloody tough week to pick. So, yeah, I agree with that. And also, the game is in London, which can cause it to be strange. It was either going to be the Jets or the Browns as my pick to slot in instead of the Seahawks, who I did have penciled in before the odds changed. And I just thought that the game, one of the games that's there's weird, like a divisional game or a London game, could go either way. Then second up, he has the Ravens at 11-4, also to somehow beat the Rams. He says it'll be a close one, but I just think the Ravens have to stop this run at some point, and they may catch the Rams cold. I find it hard to agree with that one because I'm very high on the Rams this season. I feel like they've been caught cold twice already this season, and I think they're really going to try to eliminate any silly mistakes. So I feel like the Rams will run away with this one, but he's gone with the Ravens. And then he's also gone with the Niners, the same as me, to beat the Bucks. He said he can't believe there is a favour for this game, which is probably just down to the 49ers injuries so far this season. But at the same time, I agree that I think these teams are fairly evenly matched across the board, and I feel like the Bucks may become a team that gets knocked off here in this one. All right, so we've got Michael back for the NBA section once again. Trusty Michael comes in clutch. Shane is not around, so we're going to go through three NBA teams once again, preview them. Michael, you know the crack with this. You've been on before for this segment. What's the crack with you? How are you?
I'm all good. How are you? I'm struggling to get by in our fantasy league, but I'll take the 2 and 3 5 weeks in.
Yeah, your first time doing NFL fantasy, right?
Yeah, it's my first time. I'm enjoying it. I haven't been hit by the injury bug yet, so fingers crossed we keep it that way.
Yeah, I've been absolutely destroyed by that myself, losing neighbors, James Conner, CD Lamb for like 3-4 weeks as well. So, look, that's the way the cookie crumbles in this. But we're gonna get onto that NBA fantasy too, of course. But let's get straight into the first team. So we're gonna do the Spurs first. We haven't many teams left at this stage, but we'll start with the Spurs, and I'll throw the first question to you. Where do they need to improve most from last season?
Well, one of the things watching the Spurs I felt like they need to improve was probably their front court, but which I think they addressed pretty well this offseason, adding Luke Cornett and Kelly Olynyk. But the bigger thing was shooting. And I feel like there's still a lot of questions on shooting. Now, I'm 100% sure they're betting on Sochan, Vassell, or Harper to come in, and one of them to be, at least an average 3-point shooter in their in this first year, kind of beginning to contend for a playoff picture. But I think there's a point 3 months in where we're going, oh, we still don't really have that much 3-point shooting, and Wemby is now shooting like still 14 3 points a game now. I don't know. He might reach nirvana and start chucking half court shots every possession, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think they could struggle with that too. Like, I feel like at that point, that would be it would be a too early thing to say, but they could say like, we should have traded back and just taken like Trey Johnson or something, and then you've got your volume shooter and probably more assets. But I think outside of that, for me, I went with that last year they were quite shaky defensively in the non-Wemby minutes. Now, obviously, him not being around for a lot of time last season like played an effect on it, but it's not something you would associate really with a Spurs team being like poor defensively. Last season they allowed 116.7 points per game. It's very high. And obviously Wemby again missed like pretty much half of the season, so that does feed into that. But in general, they probably need to shore up a little bit with him not on the court defensively, or else, they don't want to rely on him too much across the board to do everything offensively and defensively. So that's something they need to work on, I think, as a team. Looking at someone who's under the radar, then I'm gonna go first because, like you just mentioned, Luke Cornett. He's somebody that I've got. I think he's a valuable backup for Wemby. He's played in a winning team already. In Boston's championship season, he gave 15 minutes per game during the regular season, 5 points, 4 boards, and a block on average across those games. So he is a good piece and somebody that they can probably rely on, and that he's not going to mentor Wemby or anything like that. He's not that kind of a guy, but he's somebody that at least they can rely on in the minutes that Wemby's not on the floor.
Yeah, I was kind of I love that rookie that they've drafted. The defense one is a Carter Bryant, but for defensive rookies who can't really shoot well, they never do fantastic in their first few years in the league.
Yeah, hard to get
And
minutes too.
after watching that preseason as well, I'm all in on the Luke Cornett train. Oh my God, and then every stat I look up seems to just support it. Like, he's one of the most efficient finishers at the rim in the league. He's one of the best offensive rebounders. I mean, he gives you great defense as a backup big. And like you said, he's coming from the Celtics. He's got that championship pedigree. He's a vet that's respected. I think like I think this is probably going to be his highest points per game average. The minutes with him and Wemby there, and they're doing a high pick and roll and two 7-footers passing it to each other. How are you going to intercept that?
Yeah, I think it could be a recipe for success for them. I think they were smart to bring him in because, like, their roster is pretty nice. I know we talked about already their backcourt, like you mentioned, but in general, they have options at least there. Now, let's see what they do with them. But this is something that they kind of needed, something else. So I feel like they did the right thing by bringing him in. And it's interesting we both picked him. So watch him just absolutely flame out now after we both picked him for this. But I think the Bucks think they're going to be pretty good. So
Yeah.
43.5 wins is what they've projected. They had 34 last season. So where do you put them?
I think the Bucks have it exactly spot on. If it was 41, I'd go over. But I'm so worried about the lack of 3-point shooting. Now, for the record, I think if it's that bad, they have so many assets. They're going to trade something and get a guaranteed 3-point shooter halfway through if they really want to make a push. But, ooh, I'm going to go over. I'm going to believe in Wemby being healthy for the for 70% of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Take me on that center injury copium. But I think I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna estimate they could hit 46.
Yeah, I'm kind of like on the same boat as you. That I thought the line was just like so solid. I was swaying either way for a bit, but then I was just thinking about some of the others that I've chosen throughout the West, and there's so many good teams that I feel like a 10-win jump, even with a lot more games from Wemby, is still a lot to ask. So I'm gonna go with that they'll get just under 42 or 43. Mostly because not that I don't think there's a really good team there, just I can't pick every team to go over in the West or every decent team to go over in the West, I guess, when they have a decent enough margin. But their wins are going to have to come from somewhere, and there's a lot more strong teams out there this season too. So, but I do think the line is very well set, and it's not something that I would be putting my money on either way because it could sway either way, definitely. Then looking at the ceiling with the current roster and coach for the season ahead, what I went with here is an absolute push. I think the best they could do here is the second round of the playoffs. I think they could win a playoff series. I think they'll get their feet under the table. but just having Wemby to get his first playoff success, this team's ideas, I find it hard to see that they go beyond that so early on in the project. So I think that that's as far as I can really be willing to put them.
Yeah, that's maybe this is also a bit counterintuitive after just going over on the Spurs. I think they're a first round exit. I think
At a max.
with the current roster at the coach, they're
Mhm.
so flawed. Now, I said coach, but like obviously coach doesn't really change much, but they're so flawed. I think they're not going to be over 5, 6 seed if they go into the playoffs. And then on top of that, they're going to be playing against a much better roster with probably a more experienced coach that's going to be able
Yeah.
to dissect. I think it's first round exit at max. I
Okay.
think saying play-in is a bit too mean. They
Yeah.
definitely can be a 7 seed, but I think unless Wemby averages like 46, 10, and 10 in the first round of the
He
playoffs,
really could do that though, is the
he
thing.
really could.
With lots as the second 10. So
But
uh
yeah, I'm gonna keep it at first round exit.
yeah, it's hard in the West. I think there's not many teams really you could see winning a playoff series. They're like on the cusp of that for me. Now, when we do our full season preview, we'll go through where we think everyone is going to get to, and yeah, I don't think really they're going to go too far this early, but I think it could be a positive if they manage to get across one series. I think they'd really bite your hand off for that at this stage. Then moving on to something completely different, the Phoenix Suns. Where they need to improve most from last season? Where did you go with this?
They should fire Matt Ishbia out of a cannon. No. Um, the one thing that everyone was talking about, playmaking.
Yeah.
Now, have they addressed it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think everybody could understand that that team. Now, they brought in Tyus Jones. I'm almost 100% sure. And that didn't really change much.
Oh, last
So
season
we'll see.
or
Yeah,
now?
last
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
But we'll see if they believe in Ryan Dunn a bit more. Jalen Green, if maybe he can start being efficient passing the ball. I think it's just very obvious where they need to improve, and instead of going for a surefire fix, they've went like high risk, high reward.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's hard. It's hard to see this working for me, in any way. Like that backcourt of Green and Booker. Like Booker is an exceptional player, but like that just doesn't work. That just does not work. And yeah, for me, I went with not sure where they go from here in general, but better center play would be very helpful. Right now they have enough options like to make that a thing. Like but at the same time, like Richards and Williams when they were together with the Hornets weren't exactly a reliable center partnership or center rotation. And then you take Malawach, who's probably going to take some time to adjust to the league. So you say like throw enough at the wall and something is going to stick, but really is it? I'm not sold on it yet. I feel like they did the right thing in bringing in some guys, but maybe they would have been better off just focusing on somebody who they actually believed in or who fit into their system, because like Mark Williams is not exactly going to be suited to the way that Jalen Green, for example, is going to set him up. Like he's not going to throw lobs. You're not going to see Booker throwing lobs to the center much. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure, but that is something that they needed to improve on. So at least they took a stab at it, and let's see how it actually looks when the season starts rolling.
Yeah.
I think under the radar players then I'm gonna go again first because you already mentioned the name here, and I've gone with Ryan Dunn. I think he was okay last season. He was like on a really bad team. At least they could look to him as a positive. Picking him up late in the first round and how at least he gave some production for them. And he plays hard. At least you can say that, because there was not a lot of players on the team that they could have said that about last year. Playing 19 minutes a game is pretty good as well for your first year. 7 points per game, 3.5 boards. He's handsy enough on defense. I think we'll see maybe a little bit more of him. I don't know. I don't know what they do here. Like, where do they fit him into this lineup? Because if you're gonna have Green and Booker, he's a little bit small to be playing as a forward unless they play two bigs, because they have enough bigs. But then, which two do you play? Because they don't really work together. And Dylan Brooks is still floating around. Yeah, they have a lot of problems here. But I'm going with him as something at least they could hopefully look to work a bit.
Yeah. No, I definitely think you look at this roster and there's not that much to be excited about. I feel like there's too many question marks everywhere. And
Mhm.
it could, I mean, if you were going to kind of rebuild, this is kind of the way. There's a universe here where Jalen Green, you know, the Phoenix Suns were one of the lowest teams in terms of drives last year, but one of the highest in terms of passes. So they're just passing around the perimeter. You hope
Mhm.
Jalen Green comes in and drives a whole ton and kind of fixes that problem, but he's never been good at passing out of that.
Mm.
So does that really fix the problem? And I mean, even with Ryan Dunn, I think personally, I really struggle to see where he has the opportunity to make a step
Mm.
in this team. And for that, I'm just gonna say Dylan Brooks. Not because I super enjoy him or because I'm a huge fan. He kind of annoys me, to be honest. But I think there's going to be enough like chaos that he can just thrive in that. And that's
Mm.
kind of what was happening in the Grizzlies as well, when they were like this up and coming team and they were tough and they were just challenging every other team. He was thriving in that chaos and talking his talk and doing all his antics. I think there's enough of that here where we're going to see him get in someone's face and you're going to look at the clock, you're going to look at the scoreboard and they're down 17 and you're kind of like, "Okay, pop off, Dylan
Yeah.
Brooks. You've got 20 in this game, but it doesn't really matter."
Yeah, I know. Like, that scenario is something that you can pretty much nail on is going to happen this season. That he's just probably against like a Warriors or something, and he's just like yapping, and then Draymond hits him with like, "Look at the scoreboard, bro," and then it's just like clipped everywhere. But yeah, at least he brings a bit of fire, because it was hard to see where they were getting that from at times last season. And the bookies have responded in kind to this kind of the negativity that we've spoken about. They had 36 wins last year. The line is down to 31.5. Last year, KD played 62, Booker played 75, and they got 36. It's hard to see how they improve now with Jalen Green and probably a pretty poor forward rotation, you could say. But I still think they get low 30s. I don't think they bottom out, and I could see them just like scraping 32. So I'm just gonna call it over here, even though it's another one I would not be putting my money on. But I just think they might scrape over. What did you have?
I, you know, I can't see them bottoming out, like you said, but you kind of look at this team and there's not really many teams you'd book them in to beat. But I think on like a second back to back or something, you just get this whole team, half of the rotation, it feels like are rookies. They're just going to run everywhere, you hope. I mean,
Mhm.
I would go over by like 2 games.
Yeah, I think that is the
That's
perfect
my
point for
thought
them.
process. Yeah, it's like if they can catch out some of these like higher teams on like where they think they've got a break before they go over to, you know, Golden State or something else,
Hmm.
and they're not thinking about the
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 Suns.
4 and 15 Phoenix Suns, like
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. I think like 2 wins over that mark is probably a ceiling as well, which is interesting. I think, but as like an absolute ceiling, like if everything broke their way, things work out, and some other teams have some kind of mishaps, I have their ceiling as like reaching the play-in places, and if they could win out in the play-in, they're just going to get waxed in the first round by whoever they play, and so that's like an absolute push that they just basically get waxed in the first round of the playoffs. But it would be, I think it's fairly unlikely they even make the play-in, but I think if they made it through the play-in, the NBA media is going to be talking up Booker like he's going to take this team, he's going to take them, he's going to take down a big dog here, and then they're just going to get slammed like 4-0. So I could really see that is the script already in front of my eyes. What did you have
I
as their
mean,
seeding?
you're already kind of starting to see it. People are talking about Jalen Green saying like he was one of the top scorers on a team that scored 50 wins, and it's like, yeah, but if anyone looked at the games, you could see that
Yeah.
he like they definitely did need volume scoring, but like
Yeah, not in the way
nobody
that he
thought
was
he was
given it.
irreplaceable. Nobody. And he was getting benched in 4 quarters and all of this. Like, I think there again, there is a scenario where you pointed out a good point that I never thought about, which is who's gonna throw Mark Williams a lob. There's nobody on this roster that I would immediately say could throw him a lob if I asked him to right now. Like,
Bring back Tyus Jones.
in an ideal world, Jalen Green clicks, Mark Williams doesn't get injured,
Mhm.
and they're a 9-10 seed in the play-in. Like, that's it. Exactly like you said, play-in, and if they got 1 win in the play-in and then lost the second, that's a huge plus for me as a team. That's like what we're aiming for, is to flame out in the second round of the play-in tournament.
That's just a sad existence for a team that was in the finals, what, like 4 years ago now at this point?
I'd also like to shout out Royce O'Neal is still on this
Yeah,
roster.
I could not believe that when I was looking, and he's gotten paid pretty nicely as well compared to some of the other guys on this roster. And he has what, like 2 more years left after this? I was like, wow,
He does nothing for them.
he's not gonna play. Like, I mean, if you're giving him the minutes over like Ryan Dunn, then you need to literally be checked, because this is, yeah, I don't even know why he was. I was swore he was gone, and then I looked at their roster before this, and I was like, okay, there's somebody I'm not mentioning, but he's there. So let's move on then to our last team. Arguably between them and the Spurs, maybe the best team we've talked about. The Grizzlies, the Memphis Grizzlies. In If you want to look at them in a positive light, for me, where they need to improve most from last season, I answered this in a way that was, let's see how they adapt to the loss of Desmond Bain. I think number one priority is how they adapt to that. What way will they go with the lineup? It's hard to tell. Do you see Ty Jerome starting there, or do we see Pippen Jr. start as a second ball handler next to Ja? What way are they going to go about this? That's a big question mark, and it's not necessarily something they need to improve on, but it's something they need to plan and take into account going into this season.
Yeah, I almost like I have the exact same thing, and I think that's not. I'd like to hope that's not bad hosting. I just think the loss of Desmond Bain is so huge
Mm-hmm.
for the Grizzlies, and like I love the Grizzlies. I thought they were fun. I thought they were fun for the last 2 years. You know, even the year that everybody got injured, loved watching Gigi Jackson.
Mm.
But the one important thing is that volume scoring underneath that on their whiteboard is one name, and that's Desmond Bain. In big games, Desmond Bain is going to hit. In blowouts, Desmond Bain is still hitting.
Mm-hmm.
In blowouts where they're winning, Desmond Bain has been hitting. He has been 20 points per game, constant, efficient, 3-point shooter. That Ja Morant goes out and he just says, okay, I'm just going to average 8 more points per game for you guys. He's not there anymore. If Ja Morant goes down, do we fully trust JJJ to take on that responsibility? Do we look at Ty Jerome and say, that's okay, we have Ty Jerome, the guy who just flamed out of the playoffs? Like,
I know.
it's a lot of question marks that the one guy I feel like I would have never traded away was traded.
Yeah,
Maybe
I feel
they
like he
believe in
was.
KCP more than me.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was like, there's some people who you like look through their rosters before you prepare for these episodes, and I was like, KCP. I was like, "Ugh, I don't even know how to talk about him in this Memphis team. So I was like, let's look outside of him. But then again, they paid him quite a lot, so he's probably going to play quite a lot, and that worries me because, like you mentioned, Ty Jerome. That was a bit. He lost himself so much money in that playoff performance. And he was excellent. The way you described the way that Bane was playing, scoring. If you're in a close game, he'll volume score. If you're in a blowout, he'll volume. That's what he was doing. Ty Jerome was doing last season in the regular season, and then you can see maybe that vision. But the playoff performance is really worrying. And so he's a confidence guy too. So hopefully he doesn't take that into this season. Who did you have as your player under the radar that you like for the team?
Player under the radar that I like for the team. I didn't know. I got glimpses of Jock Landale and I was kind of like, that's interesting. But honestly, I really like Santi Aldama.
I actually
I
like him
think
a
he
lot
could
too.
have a really good year. I like that sounds so strange. But
I mean, they
watching him
paid him for
last
a
year,
reason. Like,
yeah, watching him last year, I was like, oh, I understand. And he had this whole like online fan base that kind of woke me up. But he seems like a solid option. And if Jaren Jackson Jr. likes to like space out as
yeah,
much as he does, he seems like a solid option to have underneath. I'm not saying that he's going to come out and be unbeatable, but I think you're looking at someone who could be Luke Cornett in impact minutes
yeah.
in a sense for this
I feel like
Grizzlies.
he's better than that. He has a higher ceiling than Garnett ever did or ever does.
Yeah, but I mean in terms of like Luke Cornett last year was coming on and how you expect him to play this year for
Yeah,
the Spurs, that like he does have an impact on the floor when he comes in. He's not plus minus box minus 0, just an empty, 12.
like every Sixers backup center for the last 10 years.
Stop. Stop.
We've been subject to that
Adam
for a long
Bona
time.
is on the way in.
Yeah,
Okay,
he
guy.
actually looks pretty good, and he had a good Euro basket as well. So let's cling on to that as Sixers fans. My under the radar player was Scottie Pippen Jr. I think he's on like a superb contract. He's like, I think he's earning 7.5 million over the next 3 seasons combined. That is crazy considering if you look at how much KCP is getting paid, and Royce O'Neal, as we already mentioned, is getting more than that just this season alone. 21 starts last season, 79 total appearances, was consistent in the team, 10 points per game, over 3 boards, over 4 assists, 1.3 steals per game too, which is important for this team because they want to be difficult to play against, and he adds to that. He contributes on defense, plays hard every minute he's on the floor. He's just very like Grizzlies. He's exactly what they want, and I think if he can keep up what he had, his level of 3 point shooting, but at a higher clip, like if he had more shots and he continued to be around that 40%, I think that would be very beneficial for the team. And I like that he got at least a bit of a taste of playoff basketball this year, because I know they lost 4 games, but he played very well in those games. And so I think that will stand to him too.
No, I definitely think I was thinking about Scottie Pippen Jr. as well, but I had a feeling. I mean, no one was picking Ty Jerome or Ja Morant or Zach Edey, so And I feel like the Gigi Jackson hype has faded away. So I said, let me go out there with this Santi Aldama pick.
Yeah, actually, it was between the two of them for me too. So I'm glad we went opposite ways there. Then their wins has taken a nosedive from last year. They had 48. It's at 40.5 right now. I think it's a bit low, to be honest. I know that they lost Bain, but if Pippen takes a little bit of a jump, adding Jerome, I think between the two of them, they can contribute in a way that Bain would have. Now, maybe not to the same level, but they can fill the gap that's not 7 wins lower. I think some good young pieces, and it's really interesting the way that you were putting some of the young Suns guys, and you said like they could go out there and win games just by running around and playing hard. That's literally something I wrote for the Grizzlies. I said they're going to win games they have no right to win with their young pieces and the talent that they have. So I think they're a team I want to watch a lot this season, and I'm going to go with like between 42 and 45 wins. So definitely clearing the over here.
Okay, that's really interesting because I look at this team and 40.5 wins seems so low. But you look at this team, and I think the thing is, especially the last 2 years, if you imagine injuries don't exist, I think a lot of people would say that the Grizzlies had one of the more like talented rosters in terms of like potential. I
Yeah.
think that year when everyone was out, they kind of got to play a ton of younger guys and see
Mhm.
who has, the chances of being able to stay at this level. I look at this team and I don't know if I feel like coaching change might need to be made or stylistic change. I think Ja Morant coming back and how uninspiring they were last year is a really worrying sign for me. I think there's also the bet that he gets injured, and it's not like I know I'm about to go under on this team because of injury potential after going overs on the Sixers
Yeah.
for my whole life. But when Ja Morant is on the floor, he is not you are not worried about him scoring 40 points a game. You're not worried about him giving you 15 to 20 assists. He's going to give you his Ja Morant game. And it feels consistent enough, and he might have games where he goes off, but I feel like the difference between Embiid for half the season and Ja Morant for half the season,
Yeah.
the Grizzlies would take Embiid immediately. And because of that, I'm just going to have to go under. I just have to bank on the fact that he's going to go up for a dunk and come down awkward, or something's going to happen halfway through.
Yeah, it's more likely than not considering what we've watched. But again, it's funny saying that considering we both went with the Sixers over, but I think the Sixers won in a week in the East as well plays a massive part too. So last question then of the day, we've got what's the ceiling for this team with the current roster and coach for the season ahead? What did you go with?
It's really tough because you definitely bank on them more. You definitely believe in them either at the same or a little bit below the Spurs, depending on how high you are on the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, I felt so much more confident with the Spurs first round than I do saying Grizzlies first round. Like,
Really?
I kind of feel like it might be. I mean, I don't want to say first round exit, but like, yeah, like a 7-game first round exit. I think that's the ceiling, honestly.
Wow. I actually I matched what I said about the Spurs and that they could get to the second round. I just think if Jaren Jackson really do take a hold of the team and make it theirs, like beyond any doubt going into the future, and if Yaslo has kind of a chance right now to put his spin on things and prove that what he did in Europe can translate to the NBA, I think it's a big season for all three of those guys, and I'm actually more confident in saying that they can get to the second round than I am in the Spurs. Honestly, what we've seen from the Grizzlies for a number of years, and who's to say that Wemby might not consistently have the same type of injury luck as Ja. So I would rather put my chips into Memphis right now, just given the track record of solid play when their stars are available.
I don't know. I just don't believe in them as much as I feel like KCP is such an eyesore on that team.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I kept deterring from them was it's like you can't really. How many minutes is he going to play?
And also, I don't know if he's the vet you want to bring in. I don't know if he's the the guy bringing in the championship pedigree, you know? It seems
not after last season. But like, it's hard to see how he gives a strong benefit to this team. But obviously, they're looking from previous seasons what he offered.
yeah, I think right now, especially with like you said, we'll see how they play this coming season stylistically, and if they look a little bit less like separate players on a court and more like a team.
Yeah,
But I don't really feel that comfortable like sliding them into round 2. It just feels like this is going to be another Grizzly season from the last 4 years where it's just, oh my god, we have all this energy and then first round exit.
yeah. I think I'm looking at it as like the best that they could do. So I think that's my highest I'm willing to go with them. But I see the reasons why you're skeptical about it as well. They're a hard team to measure right now. I think we'll know a lot more like a month into the season, as we will about a lot of teams, but especially them. But I know you have to skedaddle. I don't know why I said that like a 40-year-old white dad. So I'm gonna let you hit the road, champ. But I really appreciate having you on. Really appreciate you coming on. Just completely lost the ability to speak here at the end. But once again, it was a pleasure, and I believe we're going to have you on for the NBA season full preview episode. So looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. And thank you once again for taking the time out and joining us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I always love getting the text that I'm needed. I'll start preparing my costume for the full season preview
Oh, the LeBron outfit
this weekend. Don't worry. I'm going bald for it. It's gonna be great.
Nice one, Michael. Thank you. Okay, so just to wrap up then, an update on our power rankings. So last week, I'll go through mine first. Last week I had the Eagles, Palace, the Bills, Liverpool, Lions, and Arsenal as my top 6. A lot of change heading into this week. So I've got the Lions now sitting atop the perch. I think they've been superb after that first week. Really were caught cold by the Packers, and the Packers played very well in that game and took down the Lions. They knew exactly what they had to do. They were well prepared. But since then, the Lions, especially offensively, just look absolutely unstoppable. I'm really not looking forward to the fact that the Giants have to play them this season. So they're sitting top for me. Next up, I've got Arsenal. I think that they're probably the best performing team over the last few weeks in the English Premier League. They've moved up from me from 6 to 2. Just Liverpool losing 3 on the bounce kind of had to drop them down, and then Palace lost at the weekend, so they slipped for me too. So I think I'm going to have to go with Arsenal here at number 2. Next up, I've gone with the Bucks. Obviously, earlier on I picked the Niners to defeat them this weekend in Gan Seans, but I think it could be a very close game. And the teams the Bucks have beaten, as I mentioned earlier when we talked about the MVP conversation, are teams that are like they're not to be scoffed at. They're solid teams, and they have played very well, only losing to the Eagles so far. So they deserve their place there at 3rd. And then 4th, I've gone with Bournemouth. Just consistently good this season. A really impressive come from behind win against Fulham. They're 1-0 down, not performing very well, and then score 3 goals late on when Fulham have barely conceded late at all before that this season. Just really impressive all around. Semenyo looks unbelievable. And really nice for Clover to get on the score sheet there. So I was impressed with them in that. They were kind of runners up in my idea to of who to pick for performance of the weekend, and I think they deserve to be considered there for that too. In fifth place, then I have got the Eagles. They are just still clinging on, and even though they haven't been overly powerful, just losing one game this season after coming off a Super Bowl win and not losing in pretty much since last December until now, and against a good Broncos team, I think that doesn't warrant them to be completely dropped. The Colts were on the cusp here for me, and if the Colts perform very well this weekend, and you see the Eagles having another stodgy performance on Thursday night, which will have already gone on by the time you guys are listening to this. Hopefully, the Giants can do a little bit of something for that. But yeah, I think the Colts may move in here next week, but I think the Eagles for now are just clinging on. And then sixth place, I've got Palace, another team who I thought they're on 19-game unbeaten streak. Losing one game doesn't warrant you to be completely dropped from this brilliant season so far. So they're still clinging on to my last spot there. So my six are Lions, Arsenal, Bucks, Bournemouth, Colts, and Palace. Then just a reminder on Shane's picks from last week. He had the Lions, Palace, Eagles, Liverpool, the Chargers, and Arsenal. So his updated rankings, he's still got the Lions first. He just said still having the most fun in the NFL. Everyone there looks like they're having fun. So in-depth analysis there on that. But it's hard to argue at that point. He's moved Bournemouth up. No surprise, he didn't move Arsenal up higher. He's gone with Bournemouth instead. He said just a great team to watch, having fun. 3 wins and 2 draws in the last 5. Only unbeaten team in the last 5. So yeah, he's on a similar vein to me there, having them included and pretty high up. Eagles then, he's still got them in third. They haven't gone down. Still Super Bowl champs, but struggling hugely. Arsenal then in fourth. Look a good team, which sickens me, but they're on a good run, is his quote on that one. They moved up from 6th to 4th, and they are top of the Premier League right now. So I'd say a very good run. Then in 5th, the Jags. Unexpected start to the season, beating the Chiefs. They deserve to be here. I think Jags, very unexpected to be performing so well, and they did deserve that win against the Chiefs early on in the season. There was times I thought they're iffy. They're getting wins, but they're iffy. But against the Chiefs, they thoroughly did deserve that. And yeah, having them in here is an interesting addition. Someone different than what I had, and he has dropped the Chargers out, so the Jags are in there now. And then Liverpool is obviously still in for Shane. Did any of you think Shane was going to drop Liverpool? Still the champions, just a bad run. Can't drop them out yet, but very close to dropping, he says. So Arsenal are on a good run, Liverpool are on a bad run. Pretty true. And there's a couple of places in the difference in the power rankings, as there is just a place between them in the Premier League. So that's Shane's 6. He's gone with the Lions, Bournemouth, Eagles, Arsenal, Jags, and Liverpool. So hopefully you enjoyed some of the chats that I had today. I'm really happy that I got Cynan and Michael on. I appreciate them both coming on fairly short notice. And I enjoyed my chat with both of them. I thought really, really interesting and always a good laugh as always. And obviously we'll have them on, both of them, again a lot more in the future. Shane will be back again next week, so don't miss him too much. He's having a great time. He's having fun, similar to the Lions and Bournemouth, as he noted. They're both having fun. Shane is having fun at a wedding. So he's going to be back next week, and appreciate you all for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to some of my rambles on my own also, and all the usual stuff to wrap up. Subscribe on YouTube or on our any podcast platform. Give it 5 stars. Leave a comment on YouTube video and follow us across social media. Let us know if there's anything that you want to see going forward from us, and we'll be happy to take on the feedback and incorporate it. So here's to another episode next week, and hopefully you enjoyed this one. We will chat to you again next week. Good luck.